portion of my OSCE where I'm going to talk about when you should and shouldn't put an LMA in, the things that can go wrong, and then I'm going to show how I put an LMA in. So the 3 times that you should put an LMA in are if your patient has a GCS of 3 and you've tried to stabilise the airway through jaw thrust, NPAs and OPAs, and that hasn't helped. The second time is if your patient has gone into cardiac arrest and endotracheal tubing isn't really an option. And the third time is if you have intubated the patient and it's failed, so you need a rescue airway. Times that you would have contraindications is basically if there's anything stopping the LMA from getting in place and if the throat is still sensitive. So trismus, which is when the jaws are toned and tense. If the airway is distorted at all from swelling or cutting or neck trauma, if there's an obstruction in there at all from choking, if there's vomiting can also be an obstruction, and also if the patient still has an intact gag reflex are times that we would not put an LMA in. The things that can go wrong is the LMA can kink over and it cannot create a proper seal if it's not inflated properly, if it's kinked over or if there's a hole in it. It can also cause regurgitation, aspiration, it can irritate the airway and cause trauma, and it can also lead to coughing and laryngospasms as well as gas insufflation. And so now I'm going to show you how I put an LMA in. So firstly, if this were on the road, I'd already have the patient in sniffing position, so I'd have a towel underneath, but since this mannequin is already in sniffing position, that would be fine. And also my main goal would be keeping the patient ventilated. So before I even put the LMA in, I'll still be doing breaths. So I'll do a breath, rule of 3, 1, 2, and down. And keeping the patient oxygenated is very important. Also what I'm going to have is, if this LMA fails, I'm just still going to keep the patient's airway open by putting an OPA in. And I'll also have suction nearby in case the patient starts vomiting or I need to take the LMA out. So those will be within range. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure up to see if this would fit the patient. This looks like it's the right size. It's a 4, and so if we're going to do math, that would mean we're inflating it to 30 mils. And so we're just going to test that the integrity of the LMA is still intact. So we're going to fully inflate it to 30 mils. No holes, no hissing, still tight, so that's a good sign. We'll deflate it. You can leave a little bit of air in there just to stop the front from kinking over when you put it in, but that's up to you. So what we're going to do is we'll keep that nearby, keep it 30. We're going to lubricate. Lubricate. Again, keep the patient oxygenated. So we're going to do another breath. 1, 2, cool, down. Now when I'm inserting the LMA, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck my finger behind, line it up, push in, down, and I'm going to keep going until I feel resistance. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the syringe. I'm going to fully inflate the LMA, and then I'm going to undo it because otherwise it will not inflate. Before I do anything else like securing it with the Thompson's tube holder, I'm just going to check that it's in the right place. So I'll look for chest rises. I have slight chest rises, so that to me indicates that the LMA is in properly. I would usually have put the Thompson tube holder, if this were a real cardiac arrest, in before, and I know the Thompson's tube holder is the right way up because Thompson is by the nose. So I'm going to get it around the LMA, just like that, and then get it into the mouth. Cool. And in real life this would be able to secure, so I do it nice and secure and tight, but it's broken and I can't get anything else, so for this sake it's closed. Then we're going to tighten this up. We're going to chuck the Cobb's connector cord on. You wouldn't put this on for arguably a pediatric, but definitely not an infant, because it would just increase the dead space and it wouldn't help with ventilation. So we're going to put the COBS connector on. We've got the filter connected up. Now when we're ventilating, the good thing about an LMA is usually when you're doing compressions you have to do 30 and then do 2 breaths, but with this you can breathe whenever you want. And according to this light it would be every 6 seconds. So if this were a patient I would wait 1, 2, and we're doing rule of 3. So 3 fingers, third of the bag, but instead of every 3 seconds we're going to do, well, we can do every 3 seconds, but it doesn't matter about compression. So 1, 2, getting a good chest rise. If the patient started to come to, if they started reacting to the LMA at all, if it was irritating them, or if I was only getting 1 chest rise, or if the LMA wasn't getting a chest rise at all, so it had kinked over, what I would do is I would unscrew this, take off the Thomas tube holder, get my suction ready, but I wouldn't deflate the LMA because you don't want any of the fluids and anything like that that may have built up around it to get into the lungs. So I turn suction on, have it ready, and pull the LMA out, inflated. And that's how I do an LMA. Thank you.